Please be seated. It's really quite an amazing afternoon where most of the family are bigger than the rest of you guys, eh? My goodness. And I was thinking when I came and had a look at Grandma there this afternoon, I thought, now how did this little woman have all these people? It is really quite an amazement, and so I think it's a very honorable gathering today in celebration of Esther here together. So let's bow in prayer. Father, you're the one that gives life, and we're so excited that you have given life to Esther for 97 years. Most amazing. And we thank you for all of the families that have come from that small little lady and brought out the excitement of all these people. We give you praise, Father. Thank you for this privilege of being together this afternoon. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, the whole funeral today, or celebration today, was wrote up by Grandma, so whatever's in line, that's what's going to happen, and just to honor her. So she wanted the Lord's Prayer, so we will rise for the Lord's Prayer, and you can all follow along in that as well. I'm not sure, do you have an overhead for that? If you don't, that's all right. You don't? Okay. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Okay, we will stay standing and we'll sing Come to the Garden.
Thank you.
be seated. So Bethany's going to come up and do some sharing with us today. That'd be good.
Esther Lily Daly passed away on Saturday, November 25th, 2023. She was born in Moose Jaw in November of 1926 to Rose and Alex Wilson. Esther attended school at Enterprise just east of the airport. She then attended Newberry School. She was married on October 14th, 1946 to Ira Daly, and went to live alongside of Highway 2 for more than 70 years. Ira and Esther had 5 children, 4 boys, Steve, Murray, Herb, and Barry, and a daughter, Monica. Esther worked along Ira on the farm, milking cows and running all of the farm machinery. You name it, she did it. Esther is predeceased by her parents, Alex and Rose Wilson, her sister, Kathleen Poole, and her husband, George, Esther's husband, Ira Daly, and her great-granddaughter, Marin Bradford. She is survived by her children, Steve and his spouse, Chris, Murray, Herbert and Marilyn, Barry and Joyce, Monica and Les, 21 grandchildren, 38 3/4 great-grandchildren, 6 great-great-grandchildren, numerous nieces, nephews, and extended family. I could never explain to you in just a few minutes or even a few hours how amazing of a woman my grandmother was. She lived her life on her own terms right up until the end. She always said she was going to live to 100, and we didn't doubt her for one moment. And she came pretty darn close, and I'm grateful for every year that she was here. When she was only 17 and lived right along the highway, she would chase her cows onto the highway when she knew Ira would be going by, so he'd have to stop by and help her. Apparently it worked, because a few years after that, they were married for many years. My grandma also enjoyed proving people wrong, such as the doctor that told her, after she broke her hip, that she'd never walk again. At the next appointment with him, he told her she'd never walk without a walker, and she said, "That's what he thinks." Yeah. Her next appointment with the same doctor, he told her that he didn't need to see her anymore because she was able to walk. She loved spending time with all of the generations. Growing up, we would spend our Sundays at the farm. All the cousins would spend the whole afternoon outside playing, but as soon as that dinner bell rang, everyone gathered in Grandma's trailer for supper. She loved to keep up to date and in the know of what everyone was up to. She also couldn't keep a secret, so if you didn't want people to know, she wasn't the lady to tell. She also enjoyed playing cards when anyone would stop by for a visit or tea. Grandma loved animals, especially horses and cows. She'd watch her cows out the window in the winter and keep track of what they were up to, and enjoyed going to the hills in the summer to check the cows. She bottle-fed 2 calves in the past few years, and that was what kept her on a schedule. She had to make sure she was up to feed Daisy or Babe on time. Everyone seemed to know my grandma, and they all have stories about her. She was loved by many and will definitely be missed. We love you, Grandma. Rest easy.
Thanks, Bethany. We'll have the song Bringing in the Sheaves now. be seated. Now, I'm sure there's lots of you young bucks don't even know what sheaves are. But I guess you can ask Barry and Al, they might be able to tell you what they are. Kind of help you out in that situation. Wouldn't that work? Guess we're going to have the slideshow now, so. Well, if you think it took quite a while to make all those pictures, just look how long it took to make all those people. Quite amazing, eh? Now Carolyn will come up and do a little chatting too, I understand, and then she'll sing for us.
I actually decided I was going to sing first, so I'm going to sing The Rose. You'll see that on the front of their cards, Grandma actually did pick the card with the rose. Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. And some say love, it is a razor that leaves the soul to bleed. And some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. And I say love, it is a flower, and you, its only seed. It's the heart afraid of breaking that never learns to dance. It's the dream afraid of waking that never takes the chance. And it's the one who won't be taken, who cannot seem to give. And the soul afraid of dying that never learns to live. When the night has been too lonely and the road has been too long, and you think that love is only for the lucky and the strong, just remember, in the winter, far beneath the bitter snows, lies the seed that with the sun's love in the spring becomes the rose. Thank you. I wanted to share some stories of Grandma. I guess I'm Carolyn. I am Barry's daughter. But Bethany, you did awesome. They broke the mold when they made Grandma. She was exceptional. Grandma was our touchstone, and she took a piece of our hearts when she unexpectedly passed away. Grandma told many stories about her childhood. The ones that stood out emphasized her love of the outdoors. She would always say that her sister Kay owned a couple of dolls and would work in the house with their mom, but Grandma preferred playing with her stuffed horse and working alongside her father wherever they were living at the time. She just always loved being outside. She would tell stories of the hour she spent with her beloved sister Kay and their many cousins when they visited each other. Auntie Kay, Grandma, and her cousins remained in contact throughout their lives. Family was important. Grandma's children and their families were her biggest accomplishment, and she was proud to tell everyone about them. Growing up, my cousins and I were always close. As kids, we spent every Sunday together getting into all kinds of trouble on the farm. Grandma would get annoyed and frustrated with us, but never mad. She was the tie that bound the family together. If you needed to know something, you called Grandma. She would most likely know the answer, but we were never surprised when she would pull out the 1964 World Encyclopedia set and search for the answer, even in recent months. Grandma always had the best stories to share. When we were young and asked her how old she was, she would respond, "I'm as old as my eyes and a little older than my teeth." It told us nothing. She would let us grandchildren ride around with her in the tractor for hours. This was an especially fun after-school activity for me, as her and I would sing the whole time. We would sing songs like "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," "You Are My Sunshine," and she would share little songs she sang in school. Her memory was amazing. Grandma's always been like a second mother to many people who were fortunate to know her. Because we lived on the farm, my brothers and I would stay with her and Grandpa when Mom and Dad would go out. Grandma would make our school lunches in the morning, put us on the school bus, and her and Grandpa would yell at the cars who ignored the stop sign as we tried to cross the highway. It's because of Grandma that I love cucumber sandwiches and cut my sandwiches diagonally. Whenever we would get off the bus, it wasn't unusual to go see our grandparents every day. This gave us the option to eat at their house or our house. Dwayne would take it to the next level and would eat at Grandma's house a lot in his youth, as she would always make his favorites. One time during a blizzard so severe that you couldn't see in front of you, Dad got a call during the night from Grandma, telling him her furnace was on fire. Dad threw on his clothes and ran out of the house with a couple of super soaker water guns. He said when he arrived, Grandma had her box of important papers in her arms and was on her way out the door. Dad was able to get the fire out, but Grandma was worried the fire would start again. Mike and I arrived at the trailer and stayed up all night playing cards so Grandma could sleep. On January 13th, 2021, I was staying overnight with Grandma in her trailer during the terrible blizzard with the 130-plus kilometer winds. We experienced what felt like a train was going to come through as the whole trailer shook for hours. We stayed up late that night, and I remember Grandma saying that I'm sleeping in my clothes in case something happens. And my response was, "Oh my God, this is insane," and she just laughed. The unpredictable Saskatchewan weather was why she loved reading the Old Farmer's Almanac many times over and discussed the forecast for the year. And Grandma could fix anything, from tractors and other machinery to anything else that needed to be done. She sometimes used real parts, but other times she had to be more creative, usually finding household items to rig up what she needed. Twine was for tying things, and lots of gum was chewed to fill the holes in the water troughs and make things stick. Duct tape was a staple for everything else. And it was nothing to see Grandma crawling down into the root cellar, mowing the lawn, pumping her sewer out, gardening, chopping weeds around the cars with pruning shears, canning pickles, feeding her cats, and chasing cows back into the pasture when nobody was around. And this was even after she acquired her walker. She would always say, "The best two hands are the ones at the end of my arms." We were so proud of who she was. Grandma enjoyed attending many concerts, plays, grads, and other special events. It meant a lot to her to be included in the lives of her family, and she interacted differently and had unique relationships with each one of us. Years ago, Grandma used to milk Jersey cows. One time there was a cute, docile calf that Grandma thought she could train to lead around on a rope. Because Grandma used to ride horses and show cows in her younger years, she made a halter from scratch out of rope. She put on her skidoo suit, big boots, and toque, and put the halter on the calf. The problem was that she was holding on to the rope when the calf startled and took off. The calf took her off her feet and pulled her a short distance. Grandma was laughing so hard she forgot to let go of the rope. Early mornings were nothing for Grandma. If she was worried about the cattle, she would get up and check on them no matter the time. She would wake up early to chop the ice across the road, right up until she couldn't. And when she had chickens, she would get up early enough to wake the chickens so the eggs wouldn't freeze. By 8 a.m., she was having her second breakfast. Grandma loved her routines and had lists for her lists. If you visited her, you could expect tea and toast in the morning, and if it was Sunday, homemade soup was at 11:30, 3 p.m. was tea time, 5 p.m. was supper, and she would have a hot beverage and a snack before she went to bed. In her words, I eat little and often. Growing up, she would make chocolate chiffon cakes and freeze them for everyone's birthday. She would bake oatmeal chocolate chip cookies, spice cookies, gingerbread cookies, and during the Christmas season, she served shortbread cookies with and without cherries, butter and mincemeat tarts, and Christmas pudding for Christmas Day. She would put on huge family meals throughout the year, and due to the limited water supply in the last couple of decades, she became more inclined to using disposable plates, utensils, and cups. Everyone was always welcome in her home. When Grandma broke her hip in 4 places just before she turned 94 in 2020, everyone was shocked, including her. She said, I always thought my bones were stronger. When the orthopedic doctor came into her room, he advised her that they don't usually operate at her age. Grandma told him that just yesterday she was driving the tractor, and she fell because the tension on the pasture gate caught her off guard. She said, I should have known better. The doctor then told her that he was required to explain that during the surgery there are a lot of risks. Grandma interrupted and asks, if I don't get the surgery, will I walk again? His response was, no. She said, give me the pen and paper. She was in the hospital for 2 weeks and had 8 weeks of healing at Pioneer Lodge during COVID. They told her if the occupational therapist's recommended changes weren't done in her trailer, she would have to go to another facility that may not be within Moose Jaw. With the help of family and friends from her room in the facility, Grandma made sure the work got done. When she got home, she swore that she would never go back into long-term care. She would say, they will have to carry me off the farm. I'm not leaving again. And for 5 months, we created a schedule amongst some of us to stay with her overnights. She loved having company and enjoyed playing cards. The overnights ended when Grandma got better, but by this time, she had also taken on the feeding of an orphan calf, Daisy. Even though Grandma thought she would heal faster, she had healed beyond the expectations of her doctors because she was able to walk again. Grandma always stayed in contact with her children and some of her grandchildren throughout the week, either when they visited or phoned. She appreciated having people come out for visits, and if she had a medical appointment or had to go to the bank, she enjoyed going to town, but would always say, I don't want to be a bother. Her kids had specific names or specific times that they would call her, and she had no issues cutting people off knowing when she was expecting the next call. If anyone was going to call her, it was best not to do it during the news, John Gormley radio show, or when she was watching her CBC lineup of Heartland, When Calls the Heart, Coronation Street, Murdoch Mysteries, etc. She also enjoyed Hudson and Rex. And don't even think about touching the remote, the volume, or changing the channels. She had it set. Dad would call her every morning to see if she needed groceries. He would hang out with her at the kitchen table at most afternoons. Up until she couldn't do it anymore, Grandma was fencing with Dad. She enjoyed walking for miles along the pasture fence, checking and fixing the posts and wire. She would hold the posts while Dad wielded the post maul. They trusted each other and spent many hours over the years working the farm together. This most recent Remembrance Day weekend, Grandma had a lot of visitors, as it was just after her birthday. It would be the last time many of us would see her in her own home. After everyone went outside, I asked Grandma why she didn't smile in many of her pictures. Her response was that she didn't like her teeth, And if she could give one piece of advice to her grandchildren, it would be to stay up to date on their dental care. Something you may or may not know is that Grandma did not like having her picture taken unless she was dressed up. She would get so annoyed when she found out that a grandchild had posted her picture on Facebook. Thus, most pictures and videos were taken when she was not paying attention. In many of the pictures, you'll notice she mostly wore red because this was her favorite color. Grandma's organizational skills carried her throughout her life. She had pre-planned her funeral and wrote her own obituary. And in the funeral plans, Grandma emphasized that if her kids wanted flowers, they could purchase at their cost. Even though Grandma was 97 years old, it never crossed our minds that we wouldn't have her one day. She took care of her own finances and the farm her whole adult life until the end. She told everyone, including her doctors, that she was going to live until 100 years old, and it was never questioned. Grandma had such a strong will and determination. Right up until she took her last breath, she made her own decisions, and in the short time she was in the hospital, she had family with her every minute. Grandma lived life on her own terms, and if she could have lived on love alone, she would have definitely lived forever. Her memory will live on through all those who loved and knew her. It's comforting to know that she has been reunited with Grandpa Ira, her sister Kay, and her parents, Alex and Rose. And as she watches over us for the rest of our lives, we know that she will be waiting for us when it is our time. We love and miss you, Grandma, to the moon and back. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. You didn't even stop to have a drink. You did pretty well on that, eh? I guess some of the first memories I had of the Daly family was going by on a Sunday afternoon and seeing the scads of people out in the yard playing around, having a good time together. That was always a special note to keep an eye on Sunday afternoons, to find the family out there. Family meant a lot to Grandma, and I could tell you some more stories, but you've heard enough without me having to get too far on that. And so it's a blessing for all of you as a family to come together today and just reminisce and talk about Grandma and what she had meant to you through the years. You know, this Grandma, she had a lot of courage, a lot of determination, a lot of perseverance that she built into her family. You know, when she had that broken hip, and then she said, well, too bad, doctors, but I'm going to walk again. It's too bad there isn't a lot of the younger people today that had that kind of a determination, because it was a marvelous lifestyle that she walked in. And some of you may not remember the exact date, but I did find it in my stuff, is that Grandpa passed away and his funeral was on May the 18th in 96. So Grandma lived all those years since that by herself out there. Well, I mean, granddaughters went out and stayed with her and all that kind of stuff at different times. But, you know, sitting right there on the highway, just determined to be able to handle it all by herself. Well, not really, the cattle, you know, she had to look after them, right? You know, I marvel at how even in her later years she had to feed a calf that was an orphan, and yet she gave of herself for that calf. But I would like to ask all of us here today, what do you want to be remembered for? I used to work in a funeral home, and there's a lot of plaques on the headstones that told about their life or the life they wanted but didn't really have. You know, we need to be willing to use our life for others. It's not all about us. but what can we do for someone else to give them life? You know, I think of Grandma here, passed away at 97. She said, I'm going to live to be 100. Do you know that lots of people, when they turn 50, they say, well, I'm over the hill. And so what they're doing is speaking death into their body way before it's time. Now, if Grandma had talked all her life, oh, it's sure a tough life here, I'm not going to make it very long, you're actually telling your body to go into that kind of a mode. But she said, I will live to be 100. Now, it's only a few days to be that. 3 years, what's 3 years? But that's quite amazing. And I would really encourage us, watch our mouth. Our mouth can take us into the grave faster than anything. Speak life. Create life. And I mean, there's quite a few life that has started since Grandma and Grandpa. But I mean, speak a lot of life and get it going in your families because it means a lot. In fact, when I talked about speaking life, it says in Proverbs 18:21, life and death are in the power of the tongue. You have that choice. You have the choice to speak death, even to your children, your grandchildren. I know of a fella very well, a close friend of ours. Spoke death to his son when he was still young. Yeah, it's a terrible jolt to a child to have somebody speaking death to you all the time. Can't we just speak life? Give those kids real hope? Grandma wanted those 2 hymns that we sang today. She also wanted the Lord's Prayer. I don't know where Grandma's relationship was with God, but there must have been a drawing in her heart to want those songs. Talked about walking with God. Everyone here today, you have that opportunity. You can do it, or you can run it on your own. But your life won't amount to much in the end if you haven't spent time with God. In fact, Jesus said that we need to meet Jesus now, not when we die. It's too late. Once we pass away, there's no opportunity to go to heaven unless you've met Jesus. You need to ask him to come into your life and create your life in a relationship with him. In Romans 10:9 and 10, it talks about, and what is God's loving message to us? It is the revelation of faith for salvation, which is the message that I'm sharing today. For if you publicly declare with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will experience salvation or life eternally. But if you don't, there's only one other place you're going to end up. You need to make some fast choices today because this world's in a terrible mess. And you need a relationship with Jesus to be able to, because he just wants to come and give you life. The heart that believes in him receives the gift of righteousness of God. Then the mouth confession resulting in salvation, resulting in eternal life. And it is true, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved or will experience life with Jesus. Pretty simple. All you have to say, Lord, take my life. Do something with it. He doesn't have a hard time figuring that out. He can handle it very swift with you and give you hope. Thank you for this privilege of being together with you today. So the congregation will rise and the family will go out for us.